All right.
What we've got here is a failure to communicate. What we had here last week, which is the way he wants it. Well, he gets it. Now, I don't like it any more than you, man. Friends, greetings, salutations. This is the Formless Podcast, episode number 80, with me, Dustin, and replacing the superhuman Tyler today is his good friend, Luke Van Mol. Correct?
Yep.
Awesome.
Hello there.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for being here. Those of you in the know, Tyler made a movie with his good friend Luke, who we have here today. That was a labor of love, would you say, or a
It's a lot of things combined.
Okay.
Labor of love, but we want it to be our full-time jobs, and so we have to do a lot of labor of love to get there.
Yeah. So it was like the obsession with like Captain Ahab and Moby Dick, right? A white whale. I'm.
Oh man, ironic you bring that up, because recently I did read that and watched Ron Howard's In the Heart of the Sea again. I bought the 3D Blu-ray of that and I became a bit obsessed.
It is phenomenal. I totally rejected the entire idea of reading that book as a kid, like in high school when you're supposed to read it. I don't know, rebelled against the whole idea, you know?
I understand.
I read it after, oh gosh, probably like in my... Well, actually, there's a metal band named Mastodon. They did an entire album based on that book, and I knew nothing about the band, but I read an article about it, and I was like, anybody that nuts to like make a concept album about this book? I went and bought it based on this article I read, and it was a phenomenal album if you like that genre. But then that made me like obsess about it, and I read the book and I was like, holy cow, this is so good. Anyway, yeah, so I totally got off sidetracked about that. But your movie, so when I met Tyler 6, 7, 8 years ago now, I'm not 100% sure of the time, he told me, yeah, I'm really into movies, went to school for making movies, and I'm in the process of starting to make a movie with my friend. And he always mentioned you. And it was one of those things that like, that was his news. Like, you know, you meet up with somebody, like if you meet with them regularly, you go to church or work or whatever, and it's always like, oh, what'd you do over the weekend? Well, you know, his stuff was, I was working on the movie. And it was like this, you almost, it kind of became, like you knew what he was going to say before he said it, kind of thing. He was working on the movie.
Yeah.
And it, you know, every once in a while he'd come in and he'd have big news, like he accomplished something, he got funding for something, or he finalized the script. I remember that was like a big deal. That was a big thing for him. They got, you know, the script, the final draft, it's all like together, you know. And one of the things, so you know what, we got to back up just a second. We got to figure out where Tyler is. I'm not going to tell everybody where Tyler is. I'm going to let him do that when he comes back. He will be back, but we got a couple of surprises for the next couple of weeks here. So Tyler had to leave town to take care of some stuff, and he kindly voluntold a few people, you being one of them, like, yes, hey, come take my spot for me while I'm gone out of town. And so I'm just super excited that I got a new person to talk to. So I apologize, I jumped ahead of myself there. But Yeah, so he would always, I'm trying to remember where I was now, sorry, got all screwed up. So he would always have like something new, like we were waiting for that new thing, and then it would be the same thing for a few weeks, and then like come in and he'd have like this new exciting thing that happened, like I got the script finalized, I got this done, or we went to, I remember he went to a you guys went to a convention?
American Film Market.
Yeah, in LA, right?
Santa Monica.
Okay, yeah. And how was that?
Which time are we talking about?
There was multiple times. You guys were...
The first time was in 2019. People don't often know. Yes, this project really dates back that far. Tyler and I started working on the script like as soon as I graduated college in the summer of 2019. And it was with the goal of pitching it at the American Film Market in November of that year. And we were starting in like June of 2019. So it was like a few months deadline, get the script done. Of course, I mean, that was the first draft, so it's not the version you see. But yeah, it was with the goal of that, and so we get it done and go to the American Film Market and quickly find out this is more of a film distribution market, not a film funding market, so we got a whole bunch of doors closed on our face there. But we did end up getting one development deal with somebody who in the long run it didn't end up working out, but we had spent a considerable amount of time with that person building together a pitch deck that would be pitched to investors that show, hey, we did our homework of here's a budget, here's a potential cast, here's sales projections.
All of the nuts and bolts of the stuff.
Yeah, it would end up being more of a learning experience. I wouldn't say that was what got the film made, though, but it was probably a necessary step in the long run.
Understood. So now, did you go to school to make film, or did you go to school for something different?
No, I'm mostly self-taught. Of course, there have been mentors along the way. The closest I got to schooling for it was 2014 through 16. I did a film track with a guy who used to be local that was putting on a film class that was largely for a ministry school, but it grew to became more than that, and so my parents were able to get me into that, but at that point I'd been making films since 2008, just
like at home,
and then predating that, making the home videos with the family VHS camera in 2006.
I did a lot of that when I was a kid.
Yes, so up until then it was entirely self-teaching. I would say my problem at that time was I had the inverse of most people's problem, where they just do a bunch of research and then don't actually make anything and think they know filmmaking. I had the inverse problem of all I was doing is just making stuff but never actually trying to learn how to make them well, and was more obsessed with the technology, like, oh, Blu-ray is the next big thing, oh, 3D is the next big thing, I want to be able to do all the above, and then wasn't as focusing as much on like story.
How you do that.
So I did go to a seminar in 2012. I was by far the youngest person there. That was for screenwriting. So that was my first exposure to here's how you write a good story. And then 2 years after that, there was that film track. So these people put on their own film festival at the end of it all. And so that we, of course, who were in the class would get first dibs on being in that festival. So that was my first exposure to being in film festivals. And for that, I made my short film, which can be seen on YouTube, The Training of a Ninja.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yep. Oh man, that's such a deep learning curve. A lot of visual effects on that one, even if they're not great by adult standards. For a teenager doing that was a lot of work. Yeah. And I took it again the next year. I liked it so much, and my goal that time, since I actually had the ability to drive, was now I can actually get connections with adults in filmmaking. Up until that point, I'd just been working with all my teenage friends,
whoever you could like round up and be like, hey, Saturday we're gonna make a film, and then
pretty much.
Okay.
So then that next year was okay. I have much too ambitious of ideas to get it done within the timeline that they need to have it in their festival. I am going to work on 3 other students' short films and make connections there, and then I will go ask those connections if they would like to work on my next short film, Trial 47. Commence when I met Tyler.
Ah, okay.
So
that was what I was going to
shorts.
ask you. The next question. So you met him at, he went to film school,
right?
Okay. Sorry.
Right. So he was just working on another one of the students' shorts, we had met at a filmmakers meet and greet, but that was really where our connection was made, working together on that film. I saw that he saw something in me, and I remember in particular one day on set, there was a part where we needed a shot where somebody steps in a puddle and needed to step in the center of the frame, and it seemed like after 7 different takes they were stepping everywhere but that spot. And so I just calmly walked over and tapped my foot on the spot I was trying to get, and I was like, look, right here, right here. And then I remember the next day Tyler was going like, man, I was impressed with your patience there. I was ready to pull my hair out. I know so many people in film school that would have been like, right there!
Like completely losing their mind.
Yeah, so I think
awesome.
that was the first time I remember Tyler and I really making a connection.
Right on. And then, so you, from that point to where you started on Miracle Mile, at what point were you like, oh, I can do this, I could work like this with this guy, with Tyler?
I don't know if there was ever any one moment where I'm like, this is the time. It was kind of a slow,
like gradual process.
Okay. Tyler and I worked on that short film end of 2015, beginning of 2016, and then March of that year, hey, or it might have even been earlier, would you like to help me out on my short film? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. And so that was our first director-producer duo, and that's another short film you can find on YouTube, Trial 47. And so, we worked together on that. We had me do another short film with him like a year or so later called A Day Late, which was a martial arts short film. I'm sure he used some of the skills.
I think I've seen that, yeah.
Yeah, and then it was a little bit after that where he had told me I really felt the calling to start a faith-based film studio. Would you like to be my business partner? This was like end of 2018, and at that point I was about to be done with college, and I was really worried about what the next step would be. I was in college just for business to get basic knowledge and some knowledge of the business as well. So I was about to finish my associates there, and the plan was, okay, what's the next step to get to making feature films? And I was genuinely stressed about that, so hearing Tyler be like, why don't you be my business partner? It's like answer to prayer right there.
Okay, cool. Very cool. Make sure before we finish here, I want to get all your links to the video, the short films, and I'll make sure to include those in the description.
Yep. I even have a playlist on my channel of top 5 short films, and those are all the short films I've done that have been in film festivals.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, we'll make sure we have those included.
Excellent.
That's awesome. So yeah, I know from knowing Tyler, he would tell me some of the things that you guys did when you were like in the impetus of the movie, like when you were writing the script and stuff, you would meet up. But what I'm always like fascinated about is you have this massive project, and it's self-funded, or you're trying to find funding, that the will to keep going. And then like the other thing that I find really fun, not fun, it's actually, it's very sadistic of me actually. But like I have this thing in my head going all the time, like, oh, at the end of this week's Friday, I get paid on Friday. Oh, great, and like if I just make it to Friday, I'll be okay. And then you realize that like you only got 2 days off, and then Monday rolls around. There had to have been like, oh, we have this goal, like to finish the script, and then that bug has been flying around here for the last 20 minutes. You finish the script, and there's like one more hill to climb, and you're like thinking, if you're like me at all, you think, oh, I finished, I'm done.
We don't have that.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh, wait a minute, you just got to the top of one hill, and now there's this entire mountain range ahead of you that you have to like have no clue about.
Mm-hmm.
And
endless stories on that one.
Yeah. So let me back up. What was your assumption? Because I'm sure you had you assumed that you do X, then Y comes, and then Z.
Every step.
When you, was there something that you were just like, oh my gosh, like you realized the mountain to climb was way bigger, or that you had any idea there was a mountain there to begin with?
Oh, sure. Oh my goodness. Endless. Let's see how I can condense that. Let's see. We start, and the plan is American film market, we get funding. We start filming in 2020, and then film comes out the following year. Yay, we're done. You would have seen it in 2021.
Riding in limos.
Nope. Instead, it's, oh, okay, we didn't get funding, but we got this development deal with this one LA producer that's helping us out. Of course, that wasn't free either, so there's still part of what the production budget was, and then that ended up being a good year of, for one, making the proof of making the development deal. The pitch deck took everything from January to October of 2020, and then after that, hit the ground running. We're gonna find investors. We still could make this in 2021, and then it's nope, constant rejection, constant, oh, maybe I know this guy, and then you go talk to that guy who knows another guy, and then that guy doesn't actually know anybody, and constant dead ends, constant people not responding to our emails, and then you only do that for so long until you're like, okay, perhaps we need to adapt our strategy here. Be like water, as Tyler says.
Yes.
Formless. Don't stop working harder, think differently.
Think differently.
And so at that point, we're at June of 2021. We've raised a sliver of the funds we intended, like it was originally supposed to be, several $100,000 million movie. But we still had to raise a portion of it before that other guy in Hollywood could raise his. And so we were finding it wasn't working. And we had also found that there's a faith-based studio that would take proof of concept short films. Like, you have a whole movie, you make a section of the script, and they will review it, and they have a big crowdfunding marketing thing behind them where they actually have the publicity to make something like that popular if they accept you. Now, of course, this was not the first time somebody had brought up, crowdfunding, and I'm quick to bring up, we know dozens of people that have done that. I can name like 10 off the top of my head that didn't make much more than $2,000. And proof of concept.
Costs a little more than
I can also name several stories of people that made proof of concepts that went nowhere. VeggieTales was one of them. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yep, all over the place. You'd be surprised how much rejection they had to get before VeggieTales became a popular thing. But this took away both of my concerns because, somebody has the marketing publicity behind them to make that popular. Okay. And we can't even get that until we make a proof of concept. Okay, I'm tired of trying to raise money anyway. I like being creative. Let's make a short film.
Okay.
And then, commence even more frustrations. And it seems like, I should back up a little bit here too. We have noticed that anytime we start taking a step towards the right direction, stuff in our personal life starts going to crap. And we believe there's a spiritual force behind that. There's a good message to this film. It honors God. And we also believe there's an enemy that does not want that to happen. And so this was one of those cases where suddenly that very month, shot into a state of clinical depression. I had never been there before, and I didn't know what that was even. I didn't know what was going on with me. I just realized I was immensely burned out, and I wasn't even interested in doing film, which I usually am. Didn't know that was a symptom of depression that you usually don't even
feel like doing the things you love. Yeah.
Doesn't matter. We have a deadline with this. You have to work anyway. Suck it up. And that, it was very, very hard. It was 3 months of pre-production. Every step would just make me feel utterly exhausted. And then proof of concept, we actually start shooting it. And ironically, the first 2 days of filming made the depression go away. Like doing something I loved with a bunch of people that were actually supporting us in this.
Isn't that wild? Because speaking from personal experience, I've had some severe depressive issues before, and you don't feel like doing anything. Like just getting out of bed sometimes is a major task, and but doing the things that you love, can cure that or help get you on that track of feeling better. But the actual getting to that point where you're doing it is so hard sometimes.
Mm-hmm. But that still wasn't the end.
Yeah.
We still had, I'm only at like fall of 2021 at the point in the story. It would still be several more months of hard work where I'm still juggling a day job and then working on this short film in the evenings. It would take a total of 10 months. So we'd complete it in May of 2022, to which I'm also juggling planning a wedding. I got engaged. Wonderful woman who is in the movie and plays my love interest in the movie now. But that was still going on at the same time we're finishing the short film. I didn't expect that to happen. And that could be a whole podcast itself.
Yeah.
It was a very difficult season. We got through it. Had to put the film on pause when the heat of the wedding season was really coming on. And then, okay, that's finished. We're moved into our new place. We're ready to hit the ball rolling with the movie again. We have this finished proof of concept. We show it to our LA producer and brought up some concerns with the pitch deck that people had that we agreed with. And it's like, okay, to fix that, we'd have to spend even more money to get that fixed that we don't have. And so we just had to be like, dude, we just need to find a different strategy. This is not working. So frustration there. We send it to that one studio we were talking about that takes the proof of concepts. Patiently wait, twiddle our thumbs anxiously, and they say no. Now what?
And that
We've
was
expended every
big
option.
goal, right?
That was the big goal.
Oh,
we had,
man.
And we sent that short film to everyone else we were in contact with, and we've never had such a high number of no responses. And it's again still the same story of, oh, that's a great short film. I don't know anyone with money. And so finally, now we're at December of 2022, we've completely expended our options, and Tyler just told me, you know what, we just need to make it with what little we have.
Yeah.
And that, you mentioned earlier, what was a big moment of, oh, this is going to be a big mountain. That was a huge moment right there where I realized, oh, shoot, we're not going to have hundreds of thousands or a million to make this movie. With what we have, I know I'm going to have to do a lot of tasks myself, and this is going to be very financially straining. This is going to be extremely time straining. You know, you tell people, oh, we're about to make a movie, and everyone's like, oh, yay, that must be so much fun. But no, in that moment, I was like, I know what I am in for. This is not entirely going to be fun. We have to have the mentality, we are going to war. What happens in war? You're going to get bruised. You're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Assuming you're on the right side of it, though, you're doing something for a good cause. And that had to be the big driving force, is that we're doing it for God. And if we did not have that motivation, I couldn't have done it. I don't understand people that can just do this stuff for the art. I really don't. I'm impressed by that.
Oh, okay.
Because I would have burned out way long ago if I was just doing this to get to be an artist.
Well, yeah. I could see that. That would the starving artist thing is romantic, but not fun.
It's more fun talking about it than it is being there. Trust me.
Yeah, talk about the other people that have done that. Let someone else cut their ear off.
A Van Gogh reference.
Yeah, Van Gogh reference. Sorry, I just say stuff off the top of my head sometimes, and it gets me in trouble a lot. But no, I've always been fascinated with that kind of stuff because, like, Tyler told me about the behind the scenes of that whole thing where, like, you were trying to get the funding for X amount of dollars and it just wasn't coming through, but you had a little bit of money, not near what you wanted, but it was like, we can make this film with what we have, or we can hold and hope and wait for maybe forever for this big amount that we want.
And by that time, I would have outgrown my own role in the movie.
Yeah.
I was genuinely concerned that could happen.
Yeah. Or be retired or whatever else happens between now and then. And Tyler's a big influence on me as far as, like, it's now or never. Like, let's go, let's do this. And that's one of the many reasons why I call him a superhuman, because he has that drive that I really admire about him. But when I was talking about doing the podcast, I was just blowing smoke. Like, I've always wanted to do something at this vein, but I was just talking. Like you and I are having a conversation about the weather or whatever, and he's like, whoa, wait, let's do it. We could start Saturday. And I was like, oh, crap. Not that like I didn't want to, but it was just like, I had never really worked with somebody that was like, jump in, both feet, let's go, no parachute, we don't need one, we'll figure it out as we go. And he's always been that way as long as I've known him, as far as like training and stuff. Hey, let's go one more time, let's go one more time,
sure,
let's do it backwards, let's do it this way, and so that was really cool. I wanted to hear that side of it from, it's cool to hear the other side of the coin from you, because this is like the longest we've actually sat down and talked. I've met you a couple of times in passing.
Yeah, and you're in the film.
And I'm in the film.
Your shot is in the trailer.
Yeah,
There's a part where I'm looking at my phone and realize my love interest appears to be interested in another guy, and there you are in that picture.
With my wife, actually.
That's right.
Yeah. That was fun, because I didn't tell her about that until like the day before.
Really?
Yeah, well, Tyler wasn't 100% sure that everything was going to work out. He had told me a couple of weeks prior, but it was like, it's going to be on this Saturday or that Saturday, or I'm not 100% sure yet. And then it, like, as we got closer, it was like, okay, we're doing it on this Saturday at this time, at this place. And I had kind of mentioned it to her in passing, because she's very much, she's an introvert. Mm-hmm. And if I tell her, like, when I found out months ahead of time, if I would have told her that, she would have all this time to stress and flip out over it. And so I've known her long enough now that, like, I can't give her time to prepare to stress. I just, like, give her a little tidbit, and then, like, oh, maybe we're going to be in Tyler's movie. You know, maybe Luke will call us or whatever, you know. Yeah. And so then it was like that Friday night, like, before bedtime. We get all the kids down, and I'm like, oh, by the way, at 10 a.m. tomorrow, you need to dress up. You need to wear this kind of, you know, we're going to be over here, and Tyler and Luke are going to make a movie. And she got mad at me, and then shortly afterwards, she was fine. So, because I told her a little bit.
Yeah.
Just not the specifics.
Now she has a shot in the movie.
Yeah. So that was really cool. And I totally...
Right. Random story on that very scene. We had made the short film, and here's another hiccup that came up. So we shot the short film, think it's the cut that we have is good. We're still working on other elements of post-production like sound effects, visual effects, and having people work on music. And then we're showing our rough cut around to some people, and the biggest piece of feedback we got was, I don't understand what my character's motivation for going on the road trip is. I don't get it. And it was supposed to be a plot twist later on in the film that he's actually going to see this girl that he's had a crush on for years, but had moved away a few years ago. That was supposed to be revealed like midway through the film, but not revealing that soon enough made people go, so why is this kid even going on this road trip? I'm not really rooting for him. And we're like, well, crap, this is a problem enough that we have to fix it. So we need to do an entirely new scene, which putting together the resources, putting the resources together to film one scene when you thought you've moved on from that process is much harder than when you already have the ball rolling for pre-production. So we had to write this whole new scene where my character is packing while talking with the girl on the phone, and then sees these pictures of her at this rehearsal where appears to be this other guy she's interested to add some more stakes to the story. So that it added another few dozen hours of work to the short film to get that scene in there.
Yeah. I can only imagine. You think you're, 8/10 of the way there or whatever, and then somebody else comes in and goes, what, I don't understand.
Yeah.
Wow. So you were done with the film and then had to come back and refilm that? Is that what you just...
We thought we were done editing the film, and then we turned out we needed to film more stuff, edit more stuff.
Okay, yeah. Back to square one.
It still hasn't stopped. Just because the film is done does not mean the work is done. So now that we have a completed feature film that still required 1.5 years of incredibly hard work, hardest stuff we've ever done, even more depressive seasons, it's kind of ironic.
Yeah.
Making the short film, actually shooting it, cured depression, and then making the feature brought it right back. So,
wow. Wow.
I can't say doing what you love is a fix-all solution.
It isn't.
It's complicated.
No, it's still life, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it's still life. Now, so you guys did the movie, you made it, you got it in the theater, which was a huge task in itself. You got it in multiple theaters. Some of that, I'm sure, was like, holy cow, we could do this. Like, holy cow, look at us, we did it. And then, was there, like, I know, speaking with Tyler, like, he was super proud of the fact that happened. And, like, in my mind, that's a huge thing. To, like, self-funded movie. I mean, you had help. You had a little help.
Give credit and thanks to the investors. There were some investors involved.
Yeah, but I mean, you were the driving force behind that. If you didn't have that, if it wasn't you and Tyler and I'm sure others, but if it wasn't you guys putting in that work, the other people wouldn't have came forth and said, okay, here, I'll invest in this. I'll fund this.
Yeah, and I would say it is we are going to film it on this time that brought in a little more money too. Tyler was able to raise some more because he's like, hey, the film, we could technically make it as is, but it's going to be tight. We could really use some more funds.
Oh, we're starting on this day.
And we are starting on this day. It's now or never. Do you want to be a part of it? And that really made some people go, yes.
Oh, wow. Well, I think that seeing someone's drive, like seeing somebody be like, okay, here's my deadline. Here's my goal. This is what I'm working on, and I'm starting on Monday, or 2 weeks from now, or whatever. Seeing that and seeing that somebody has a plan is a lot more like there's more to stand on than to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to make a movie.
Yeah, how many people have said that?
Yeah.
I can kind of, at the end of this process, understand some of the skepticism. I do think there's a little too much in the filmmaking field, too much skepticism, but I understand some of it now because of the number of people we've seen be like, I want to make a movie and then not lift a finger to do it. Or, yeah, stuff just goes wrong all the time and people are like, oh yeah, nothing became of it. So yeah, it is certainly the hardest thing I've ever had to make, and I certainly wouldn't have been able to make it like this if I were not in a state where I'm a newlywed, I don't have kids yet, and I don't have as many responsibilities, so to speak, but it became an enormous responsibility when you have a film on your hands.
Yeah.
So I couldn't have made that if I was in a different stage of life.
Yeah, like I tell people, like, it's okay as a parent, like I can eat top ramen. And if I have to, like, I can eat top ramen for 6 weeks or whatever. I will survive. But to ask somebody else, like a child, to do that, to me personally, is wrong. Like they didn't sign up for that. You know what I mean? Sure. They signed up to be a kid. They signed up to be taken care of.
Yeah.
They didn't sign up to like half starve to death so you can work on your dream, Dad.
Yeah.
So I totally understand that.
Well, thankfully there's such thing as food stamps, so you don't have to actually starve, which we did need to go on multiple times. I'm not kidding.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, one of the darkest points on the film was after we had shot it, like looking at the finances, the amount of time I had to not be working in order to get that film in the can, and I'm in the heat of editing in the fire, and then started finding, oh shoot, we are in a very problematic financial state. Savings are almost completely drained. We're going to need to move out of where we are living, or we're going to go broke. And that was extremely sad. The only financially practical way we could have saved any kind of money in this economy is to move in with my parents. As great as my parents are, there's just... You want, especially as newlyweds...
You need your space.
We need our space.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was really getting used to and loving living on my own with my wife, and even throughout all the hardships of filming it, I still appreciated having my own space and the peace and quiet of that. And then finding that could even be taken from me. It was like one of those wag your fists at God moments and going, why did you do this? I made this film for you. Do I have to go on podcasts and tell people you do stuff for God and you're just going to let them lose their house?
Yeah.
That's not inspiring. And
I'm not trying to laugh at you. I was just laughing at the...
We can laugh now that it didn't end that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, several breakdowns over that, and me knowing I can't fix this. And then ultimately the solution was, I had brought up to my wife at one point, I need to backtrack a bit. She was in college before we got married, took a break from it, wanted to continue taking a break. She had gotten used to the job she was at that she liked. And then the thought of going back to college was very stressful, so I don't bring that up. We don't need to right now.
Yeah.
But I did know that, my parents had some college savings for me that could be transferred to her. Her father was in the military. He was in Vietnam, so he had a GI Bill. And wow. I brought up to her, if you, half jokingly, I said, if you went back to college, you could have access to those financial resources. And she was like, "That I was just praying about that this morning. That might have just been confirmation."
Wow.
Yeah. At first she was like, "I need at least 6 people, 2 that don't know about this to confirm." I'm like, 6? Oh, okay, fine, 2. But no, she came back from work that day and went, nope, I believe it. I'm going to do it.
Wow.
So we still need something to financially keep us going the following months before she could actually get into college, because there was still several months until you could even apply.
Oh, wow.
And then she got a message from a job she had applied for months, like 2 months before that. We just thought, they're not going to respond. But no, it was a teaching job, and they came back going, school semester is about to start. Our last teacher fell through. Can you take it?
Wow.
And that gave us the financial resources we needed. And I'm telling you, while she was working, we went down to $200 in our savings account until first paycheck from that job comes in, and then suddenly we're saved. So it's like, God will definitely give you some Job moments, let you bend, but he won't let you break. Yeah. So that was amazing. That was the first financial testimony that we really had. We'd grown up hearing them at church all the time, but we had never experienced one like that ourselves.
Okay. That's cool. I have my whole thought on that. Oh, sorry, I didn't. Okay. I did. It's still recording. I always ask when I'm going to talk with somebody, it's like, how bad do you want this? Like, you make this movie and you run into this problem, and the easy solution is just like cut and run, right? Like, okay, well, obviously we tried, we failed. Let's move on.
No, footage is in the can. You can't just say.
Yeah, it's you've gone too far. You can't just cut and run now, because you're going to lose all of your effort all this time. But my thing that I always ask myself, or I ask of others, is, how bad do you want this? Is the thing that you want worth more than the struggle? Is it worth the struggle to go through to get that thing that you want?
And that's a big thing. Everyone, they hear about filmmaking, and what they see mentally is, oh, Facebook behind the scenes pictures of you on set living the dream, and an IMDb page, and the glory of having it in theaters, and people praise it. No, guys. Again, we had to go into this with the mentality, we're going to war.
Yeah.
If the only reward we got was having a nice IMDb page, having pictures on Facebook, having people praise the film for a week in theaters, it would not be worth it to me. As much as I love people's appreciation of the film and greatly admire they went to see it, if that was the only reward I got, was the praise of man, I couldn't do it. It's the eternal reward that was driving us. It's the fact that people are going to be inspired by this. People could get saved by this. Wouldn't it be worth it if somebody gets to spend an eternity in heaven because they watched this film? Wow. When Jesus returns, nothing else is going to matter. Everything will be gone. Imagine if we put in all this work just for a movie that had no strong message, made no eternal impact, put in all that work, and then Jesus returns and it doesn't matter. What a waste.
Okay. That's that is a conviction. That's awesome. Very cool.
Yep.
Very cool. Were there... I know you have to be somewhere at 12:15 or 12:30.
Yeah.
What time do you need to leave here? Because we're cutting in on 11:30 right now.
Oh, we're good.
Okay. Okay. I just didn't want to be like, oh crap, you're gonna run. What was I gonna say? I know there has to be a point though where like you got these surprises. You wanted to give up at certain points. I'm sure, because everybody does. Like, I don't care who you are. We all want to give up at things, projects, or whatever. But there has to be a point where you're like, holy cow, how is this running so smooth? Or like, I had no idea. There are lessons to be learned everywhere. Some that we're aware of, and some that we have no idea about. Were there anything like that?
Oh, sure. Anything, I mean, we're experiencing one right now. The film is done.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are back to okay, you think you finished that step. That means in the fall we'll have it available to the public, right? Roadblocks. I mean, we've told people before, I feel bad that we've told some people that it would be out on Blu-ray by now. And I'm sorry to say, because of all these setbacks, it's not the case. We have been finding along the way there could still be the potential for more theaters. We had it in 8, but we don't want to stop there. There's no guarantee there will be more, but we're giving it our best shot. If you put the film up for video on demand and on DVD and Blu-ray...
You can't really go back to theaters.
That's right. So we're giving every effort we can to try to get more theaters first, so we can at least say we gave it our best shot, guys.
Yeah. Makes sense, unless it's like a 25-year anniversary or something like that, right?
No, I hope by then we're having like restorations and all that.
Or sequels.
Yes, and sequels. Whatever format we're watching movies in at that point, we'll make them.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so the problem is now Tyler is the main person looking for more theaters, and that's very similar to the fundraising stage, in that you're getting constant rejections, constant people not even responding to your emails, constant dead ends, constant people that kind of sometimes can lead you on. And sometimes deals you look at and are like, we're concerned about that thing in the contract. And, you know, even
it's just flat terrible.
Going through the whole fundraising process, you think, well, when the film is done, well, then people are just going to be coming after it because you have a completed film. How many people have a completed film? Well, hundreds of thousands.
Yeah. The sheer number of that stuff is got to be mind-blowing.
Yeah, so the idea that once you have a completed film that then suddenly all your problems are solved is just not true either.
Mm-hmm.
And so Tyler's working on that, and then I'm working on behind the scenes for the eventual DVD and Blu-ray.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. And... you know, at the time I was in the end of post-production for Miracle Mile, I wasn't getting a whole lot of paid work coming in, so, well, there's no question as to where my time is coming from. I had to put in, like, 14-hour days for months to get the film done on time for theaters. And so I thought I would be able to put in that kind of time for the behind-the-scenes, but no, I ended up being blessed with a great job that I'm actually really enjoying right now, editing and color grading real estate videos for Reading Drone.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I have to now juggle that while making behind the scenes, so it's now like coming full circle in all the wrong ways to when we're back writing the script while juggling jobs and fundraising while juggling jobs. It looks kind of the same but different.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been working on that for a few months now. Like, ever since the film was done in theaters, I started filming behind-the-scenes interviews. And so at its current state, I have like an hour and a half worth of behind-the-scenes divided into different sections of, here's one featurette for the writing and fundraising stage, featurette for pre-production, one for production, post-production, music, visual effects and sound effects, and distribution, as well as a few other random extras like alternate scenes, the deleted scenes, and
funny bits in there.
yes, and funny jokes that we even edited. Like we'll sometimes while we're editing just re-edit what we're doing to something ridiculous. There's a thing on YouTube called YouTube Poop. So if you look up YTP of some of your favorite movies, you'll find people re-edit pre-existing media into something funny. And so
okay.
I was actually doing that with the movie as we were going. That will be on the Blu-ray. It's,
right on.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm very much burnt out on the movie by now. We're at 5.5 years in this project now, so that's still very much a struggle to get this done.
For sure.
Yeah, I can't guarantee when the public will be able to see the film either in more theaters or at home, so it's still a big state of I don't know right now.
Yeah, and that's got to be frustrating to tell people I don't know, because you built this hype, you built all of this stuff, and you built an interest. More importantly, you built an interest. You actually have people coming to you and saying, "Hey, I want to see your film," and you're like, "Great. You missed your shot."
Unfortunately.
Yeah, as of right now, this moment, you missed your shot. But you will get to see it. Well, awesome. When? Where? Yeah, I don't know yet.
Yeah, my answer to that is always, I want to know that answer as much as you do.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see this film available on Blu-ray more than I do.
So that's really funny because, like, I'm a salesman. And it took me a long time to be comfortable with saying that. Because you think of salesman, you think of like the used car guy, or some shady kind of thing. At least that's my mind. And the deal with being a salesman is learning how to deal with rejection. And like, you get 100 no's on average before you get a yes. Mm-hmm. So you have to be able to deal with a lot of saying, people telling you no way, not your dreams, blah, blah,
and
blah.
All people see publicly is that one yes, and they assume it was easy, and they ask you when's the next coming.
Yes.
When we're constantly asking dozens and dozens and dozens of people to get that one yes.
So, did you have any experience with dealing with that kind of rejection? Or was that like one of the things you had to learn when you were doing the movie?
With girls, yes. I'm blessed to have a wife now, but that was a similar story getting there.
I heard a story. I was at a sales conference, and this guy, I was not at a sales conference. I was watching, like on YouTube or something, a sales conference. This guy was like this expert salesman, and he's like, I can tell if you will be a salesman with your interactions of the opposite sex. If you can deal with somebody turning you down to go on a date and do that like 10 times, if you could still keep trying after 10 rejections, then you could make it as a salesman.
Oh man. Yeah, see, and I wasn't in that state either. I was more of the I know what I want, and I see a lot of things I like in somebody's personality. I'm like, okay, they're the person I'm going to pursue, and then when either rejection or a relationship and then eventual breakup happens, then it's like knife. And it's so I don't just go around regularly asking a bunch of people. It's no, there's this one woman I know, and thankfully I ended up finding someone who had the same mentality of there's this one man, and so. But we would very much wear our emotions on our sleeves. And it would hurt us a lot.
Yeah. Wow.
So I wonder if maybe the same mentality transferred over into film.
That may very well have been. So was there, did you have any way of dealing with, because I'm sure you got tons of no's. Was there any way of dealing with that for you? Or was it just like rejection and I gotta quit?
Yeah, I'm still trying to find the answer to that one, honestly.
Okay.
It's because I definitely have been in a state of I'm not sure if filmmaking is what I regularly want to do, if it's always going to be this difficult. Like, if every single film is going to be that difficult, why would I want to spend my life that way?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not my only goal in life. I want to have kids, too. I already said I could not have made Miracle Mile
if you had children.
Yeah.
For sure. I can totally understand
and I don't
that,
want
'cause
to be
they're
that typical Hollywood father that neglects his child, and then they all grow up going, I hate my dad. So,
on 60 Minutes.
Yeah.
So that totally makes sense, and I can completely understand that. Yeah, that makes total sense. So what did you do though? Because the rejection, I don't mean to harp on this,
Sure.
but this is like one of those things, because more people than I realize relate to these kinds of topics. And since doing this, the amount of people that come out of the woodwork and go, hey, like, I was there, I know what that's like. Wasn't the same situation. Like, I've never made a feature film, but I know a lot about rejection. Sure. I've never made a feature film, but I know a lot about taking on a big project and thinking, this is never going to end. I will never finish this. I know what that's like. So that's a similar situation. It's not film, but it's a human element that we all share. What are some of the things that you do to deal with some of those problems?
Sure. First going, hey God, I'm really frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
This is what's going on in my life.
Yeah.
I really need your comfort right now. So a lot of prayer and getting to talk with my wife and other friends in my life that understand. I feel like a good listening ear just does wonders.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I can't tell you how many people just want to fix the problem, understandably so, but this is a problem that's been ongoing for months. You're not going to fix it in a 2-second conversation.
Yeah.
Yet people always want to be like, oh, well, have you tried? And then I constantly need to explain to people why that doesn't work, or how we've tried that and it doesn't work, and that just makes it worse. It reinforces the mentality that I'm alone, no one understands.
Mm-hmm.
But you can do wonders for somebody in your life if you can really just say, wow, that's a lot, dude. I haven't been through that, and I can't even imagine how difficult that must be. I'm proud of you for going through that all. That means the world.
Yeah. One of the things that I do, and I do it religiously, I write in a journal. And a journal is my, like, hey, good job. Or you need to work on some stuff. This, like, where I'm 100% honest with myself. And sometimes it's just a couple sentences, but it's the habit of doing it every day. And then what I find nice is it's like this treasure map. Like, when I get lost, I can go back and go, okay, I've been here before. What have I done right? What have I done wrong? Where am I slipping? Oh, well, 3 weeks ago, I was working out regularly. I was spending time with my kids. I was doing this with my wife. I was, X, Y, and Z. It looks like the last 2 weeks I've kind of been slipping here. I haven't spent time as much as I'd like with my wife, or I've been slacking at work, or whatever. And then I'm kind of like, oh, here's connect the dots. I feel like poo. Why? Oh, well,
Yeah.
Here's the answer right here,
Right. Yeah, we all have our methods with things like that, and I've noticed that with myself. There was a time I was trying to regularly journal, but because I'm a very detail-oriented person, when I'm in the heat of the moment and I feel like everything is important, it just becomes another chore, because it takes me half an hour to write everything going on. I'm like, I look back on this a year from now, and if I have something from every week that's that long, I'm not even going to read it. Yeah. I really just need to have time away from it and be able to look back on the last month or so to be able to be like, okay, this is the big thing I've been feeling from that. So my journaling has gone from like weekly to much more rare of like, here's one big season of this really frustrating thing happened, and I have so much on my mind I need to put it on paper.
Just write it out.
Complain on paper.
Well, that's the other thing. Like, it's almost like having a conversation with yourself. Like, it gives you advice. It's you talking to yourself and like working out some of these thoughts in your head without having the, hey, did you do this? Well, here's a suggestion, or you should talk to my brother-in-law, so-and-so, I don't know. That works for me. But that's one of my big fascinations with the human experience. Like the will to keep going, the drive, the holy cow, here's this giant mountain and I've got to climb it and it's going to be impossible. And then you climb the mountain and it's like, wait a minute. No one told me there's another one after this that's bigger, that's steeper, that's colder. That's,
to go back to the what do you do to deal with that? Listening to other people's stories who have been through similar things. Like I've recently discovered the YouTube channels Centopicon. It's kind of complicated spelling. But
Centopicon?
You know what? Here,
I've never heard of that word.
I wrote down that word in case it got brought up. It's like Syntopikon, and he does a lot of videos on people's hardship in filmmaking, like top 10 stories
it's film related
of movies that broke directors and movies that had a hard time getting funding, movies that escaped development hell, and going through a bunch of those and realizing, okay, people have had it much, much worse than I have, and there actually are people in the world who understand, and who have been through similar things.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one. Wow.
Amazing.
But at the same time, it does another thing of, oh shoot, I really want this to be the end of all that hardship. Don't tell me that there's gonna be more.
Well, yeah, like I've got kids, so I got 3 boys, and it's funny to learn to like see them develop, because when they get down, like some of my kids, when they would get down, it's like it's the worst ever. There's nothing that can be worse than they lost their favorite toy, right? Or it broke, or whatever. And you look at them as an adult, and you're like, dude, you don't know. Like, you have food, you have a bed. It could be so much worse. There's so many other things that can go wrong. And it's like, to see other issues, I think helps me personally. So like, it must be some relief to know that, like, hey, I'm not the only guy here.
Yeah,
there's somebody else that has had issues with this.
Yeah, and I can't find that in my personal life very often, because how many people have completed a feature film?
Yeah,
it honestly gets even more lonely the more you learn about filmmaking. I'm sure it's probably the same way with any career, where you have to really learn about a niche that not many people know about, because then you start using the terminology of what I've been doing, and then suddenly everyone has a deer in the headlights look. Like, we're in the middle of editing the film, and people are like, so, how's the film going? And if I actually give an explanation of, oh man, it's so frustrating dealing with these continuity errors where it's like, I can't have somebody's head turn that soon because then it doesn't match the next shot that has the performance we want to use. I have to do this complicated. Well, I cut the frame in half, and then I have to take the first part of the reaction and put that into slow motion, and then ramp it into regular motion as they go to turn their head, and then go into DaVinci Resolve and add optical flow to that so it can guess the missing frames as I've now stretched it out, and then composite that element with optical flow with the other shot that has the reaction I want. Oh, but man, if they cross the frame, and then it's frustrating because then the frame's cut in half, they get cut off, and so I have to digitally replace their shoulder, and then everyone starts going, what?
Well, yeah, you just described about 4 different computer programs,
exactly,
editing programs that you all have to know how to use, for one, which messing with editing programs for just this podcast, holy cow. I have one.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine trying to do.
So yeah, how do you relate to people now? Because everything has to be dumbed down, and then it's like somebody asks you, how are you doing? And if you go, oh, not very good, and somebody goes, what do those words mean? Not and very and good? I've never heard those words. And then you have to explain that before you can even explain how you feel. Then it's not cathartic.
No, exactly.
So having a good support group in your life where, I've been blessed with this job at Writing Drone where it's like God plopped that in at just the right time when I needed to be surrounded by a few other people that do some of the same things and know what you're saying before you explain the terminology. Yeah. It's been a real blessing.
I bet. Well, not only that, but like some of that's got to transfer over because you're editing video, you're making things, you're doing all sorts of stuff. It's not a film per se, but it's kind of like a adjacent. You know, it's got to be really close. Wow. We've been doing this about an hour now, and we can go. Well, I can't go as long as I'd like, but
well, what time is it right now?
It is about 10 minutes to noon.
We got time.
Yeah. Well, we'll continue. Yeah, that's pretty awesome though, that you got the job that ties into the film stuff. You know, it's not the perfect world, but it's close enough to where you're like, I still get to play with these toys and still sharpen these skills.
Yeah, and it's something with a film. When do you get that sense of gratification that I completed something? Years. When you're making real estate video, okay, I get that gratification in 1 or 2 days.
Oh wow!
And then it's like, oh well, okay, a client wants changes and you don't like those changes. Well then, whatever. I'm still making dozens of these. There will be more. It feels like the stakes aren't as high.
Yeah, and you don't have investors breathing down your neck like you would if you had to scrap something like that after fronting money up for it. You know, yeah, different, but adjacent. It's amazing. Well, did you have anything specific that you wanted to bring up as far as your movie stuff, or did you want to talk about other projects, or I know you had a list of things.
Oh man, we actually covered a lot of them.
Okay, that's awesome.
We covered distribution, we covered behind the scenes, we covered some of the process, and you even were able to work into the stuff I really wanted to say about.
Good. I'm glad, because it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes things take a left turn, and you just kind of along for the ride. Yeah, that was a good time. I want to circle back to something I said at the beginning here. I read I didn't read it. I memorized that. The beginning of the podcast is a quote from one of my favorite movies of all time. If you know it, I'm pretty sure you do. Don't say anything, because I want somebody to chime in out there in the podcast universe and let me know what movie that is, and there might be a sticker in it for you. Yeah, so keep that in mind, folks. Let's go back to talking about movies for a second, because I am a bit of a movie junkie. Probably not near as much as you, but what's your favorite movies?
I like how you said favorite movies and not movie.
You know, my youngest, I got 3 kids. My youngest is obsessed with favorites.
Okay, I got a list actually, just in case I'm ever asked.
Yeah, and he is always like, "Oh, I'm your favorite child." I'm like, "You're my favorite 9-year-old kid."
Sure. All right, a few of my favorites. I'll count trilogies first: Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy, Indiana Jones trilogy, Lord of the Rings trilogy. Some of the best series out there, big inspirations for me. Master and Commander.
Hold on, wait a minute. Master and Commander, that is with the Russell Crowe. Yeah, the ship. Mm-hmm. That's an awesome
Well, you mentioned Moby Dick earlier, how that came into my life. I rewatched the Master and Commander a few months ago and was like, that was such a great film. I will listen to anything the director says. I watched all the behind the scenes, and he was like, watch this one documentary around Cape Horn from 1929 and watch the 1956 Moby Dick. I'm like, got it. So I watched both. Yeah.
Right on.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, that's a good film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great stories from the director, too. I've read his 500-page autobiography. It's one of my favorite books.
Really?
Yeah. Braveheart.
Braveheart's phenomenal.
Yep. The Patriot.
Patriot's a great one.
And probably the best biblical adaptation ever made, The Passion of the Christ.
That's one I have not seen. My wife's seen it. She loves that. Well, she loved that movie. That's one you've seen Saving Private Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
That one was I consider myself fairly strong-willed, or that took a lot of strong will to sit through the first 20 minutes of that movie.
Mm-hmm.
That one got me emotionally, and I don't know that I could watch The Passion of the Christ and not
that will
stay
definitely
awake.
get you emotionally.
Yeah. just to see somebody tortured. And I mean,
the everything about the making of that too
I read tons of articles.
Mel Gibson, constant rejection until he's just like, I'm just going to self-fund this with my own money.
Which,
not even thinking would make anything back.
Yeah, which is a huge gamble. I mean, because that movie was not cheap. It was not doing that on...
$25 million is, by film standards, is cheap, but to us is, what? That's money. That's not chump change. Yeah, and the behind the scenes for that too. I mean, especially in the visual effects realm. You know, my experience in visual effects is not computer generated things. I mean, people assume the word CGI is synonymous with visual effects. It's not. They said there's only 3 computer generated elements throughout the entire film, and everything else is other digital compositing tricks. And I watched them. I'm like, dude, if you gave me a week, I could do some of that stuff. That's amazing. Like, some of that stuff is actually possible. Wow. But yeah, the cinematography, the music, and everything. Scene setups and payoffs. Like, you have the Bible, and you see, here's a payoff. The writers didn't find it necessary to explain setups because, well, we don't. How long is this going to be? And so you have to come up with that. So
interesting.
Yeah, seeing how they would set up.
Very cool.
Things that we know are about to happen.
Very cool. Awesome.
I should say a series, VeggieTales. I mean, that inspired me to go into filmmaking. Seriously, as a kid with.
Okay. So you watched that growing up. See, I'm older than I must be older than you because VeggieTales was like my kids. I'm 44. How old are you?
Well, I have an Easter egg in the film that people can guess.
Oh, okay.
And my birth month and year. There's somewhere in the film where that's on something. Okay. So, you know, when people can eventually watch the film, I'm like, people can go and try to find.
Right on. There you go. A little teaser. Okay, so you were young enough to grow when you were growing up. That was a show that you would watch.
I was inheriting people's VHS tapes by that time.
Okay.
So, as a kid with Asperger's, one of the symptoms is that you're hyper-focused on one thing you really like. And for me, that was VeggieTales. Like, everything else, people would be talking about all kinds of other kids series, and I was just like, no, this is my one hyper-focus. I can name every VeggieTales episode in order, and I can, know a bunch of the merchandise, and I can quote the 90s movies word for word. And then growing to appreciate it even more as an adult, as you can see, this was the state of other faith-based home video series at the time, and how different this was, that this now suddenly here's a series where they make jokes that only adults get and Monty Python references and all this stuff. It was very new. And the story of making that is also, my 2 favorite books in the world are Me, Myself, and Bob by Phil Vischer, who created the series, and The Name Above the Title by Frank Capra. So, I mean, now we're rewinding back to how do you deal with these rejections and all that. Well, sometimes I pull open those 2 books.
There you go.
Yeah, I just pull open those 2 books. I'm like, that reminds me of that one story here. I'm going to go reread that one story.
Reread it. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. That is very cool. I like that. I like that a lot. I would not have picked VeggieTales. So that's interesting if I had to guess. Crazy. Wow. So, okay. One last question, then I'm going to let you go because my kids are probably going to get bored here in a minute, if they're not already. Is there a genre of movie that you would like to make that you haven't dabbled in? Do you like the
biopics?
comedy?
I would say
biopics.
Okay, so
because
the faith-based and comedy genre, I very much plan on staying there. I don't have too many ideas that would delve outside of that unless it's a biblical adaptation, in which case not everything is funny.
Yeah.
But I never plan on doing anything outside of the faith-based genre, like I already brought up. But I like comedy because making this stuff is hard enough. Why do I want it to be hard to watch too?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I want to make films that inspire people and make people leave the theater thinking I'll never be the same person again. And but the genre of biopics can go into that because they can still be faith-based comedies, but right now we're in a stage of, well, that means you have to go to the person who has the story and just resources we don't have yet.
Yeah. Somebody's got to, that makes sense. I got you there. Right on. Well, hey, Luke, thanks for showing up. Thanks for meeting here and doing the show. I really appreciate it. Get me those links. We'll make sure we put them on there. Do you want to talk about any of your social media or anything where people can reach out to you?
Well, yeah, I do have a public YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and all of them are just called Luke Van Mol.
Okay, perfect.
And then, of course, for the feature film stuff, that would be Mighty Men of Valor Studios. So we're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram.
All of the socials.
Yep.
Awesome.
So there's one for me and there's one for the company.
Okay, perfect.
And if you want to see my old work, you go to my YouTube channel, Luke Van Mol. You can see stuff as far back as 2012. It's embarrassing.
Well, as they say, warts and all.
Mm-hmm.
Warts and all. You gotta be willing to stand up like that and just.
Sure. I want people to still be able to see a before and after. I don't want to just hide everything that I put work into at one point.
Yeah. Well, your first thing that you published versus the thing you publish now, it's not the same person. You've grown, you've learned, you've changed. The thing you used to be enjoying and liked and, isn't now, things change. And that's one way of getting over the fact that we fear change generally.
Yeah.
If things are rolling around and going on this point, and then all of a sudden it takes a left turn, that shakes people up sometimes. So, got to get used to that.
Oh, here, one other social media page I started recently, Luke Van Meme, where I said that sometimes I'm more excited about editing.
Oh, yeah.
So I only have 2 YTPs on there right now, but one of them I finished recently after being at a stage after Miracle Mile was in theaters. I'm like, okay, now I can finish this up without people going, what, you worked on a meme instead of the movie when we're under a deadline? But
gotcha. Okay.
I have a few others in the works that I just work on here and there when I'm tired of the movie and all that. I'm just like, no, I want to use my skills for something fun.
Gotcha. Yeah, we'll definitely check that out, and I'll make sure to post that in the descriptions. Friends, thank you very much for sticking around and listening to us. Hopefully that was fun. If not, come back next week because we'll have more to share. We have a YouTube channel, The Formless Pod. Please subscribe to that if you get the chance. We are really close to being able to present live video, and we desperately want to be able to do that. We also have a store at theformlesspod.com. Check it out. If you need a shirt, hat, sweater, tote bags, stickers, hats, pillows, blankets, tapestries, it's all there. Have a wonderful evening. There we go.
Wonderful.